Welcome in, everyone. It is the road to RealmFest happening right now as we get ready for the seminal RealmFest happening, the first one of the year coming up in July, and I am lucky enough to be joined by the Empress of Volcor, who has descended down from her dragon wings into Mysteria and gonna talk to us a little bit about the newest illusionist on the block. So Mara, how you doing?
Doing, feeling good. Glad to be here. Pretty excited actually. This new set has been a wild ride. All three heroes look pretty great, pretty exciting, and are doing a lot of wild things this metagame.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool that as of time of recording, we're only a couple of weeks into this format, and we've already seen all three of these heroes really shaking things up. I think LSS didn't pull a whole lot of punches with this one. Going to be exciting to see how this all kind of rolls out as the next couple of weeks progress.
All right, and before we actually dive into the deck, Mara, we got the RealmFest coming up, so I want to tell the people out there, why should they come through and hang out at the RealmFest?
I could not be more excited about the RealmFest. If anyone has never had a chance to check out any of these big Realm tournaments, I just strongly advise, go check it out. They are some of the most engaging, super fun events I've ever been a part of, from just the competitive play to the people there, to the casting has always been super excellent. Yeah, I cannot wait. I think we kind of talked about the last big Realm 20K. I had a pretty cool run. I'm very excited to repeat that run, but also maybe do it in a less stressful way. I'm just really looking forward to another just amazing, memorable tournament for everybody involved, and it's going to be awesome.
Hell yeah. Well, if you want to go ahead and have your chance to compete in the top 8 of the Rumble, the RealmFest is a great way to do so. All you folks out there, these are the feeder events, because it's not even a 20K this year. This year, it's a 50K. I don't know if that's been made clear yet. All right, well, let's get into the deck tech. Talk to me about Enigma. We're going to go through and, just get some of your thoughts on the hero. You have a sample list here that you've been working on, that you've been kind enough to just share with us some tips and tricks. But in general, where are you at with the hero? How you feeling? We looking ahead to the national season coming up. So people who are interested in Enigma, I'm sure, are going to want to hear your thoughts. So give me just some rundown.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, you asked me for a list and I had to panic scramble because I've got 7 right now, and I was like, oh god, what's the amalgam list that kind of does everything? I think one of the things that really excites me about it, and I think is one of the most interesting deck building challenges with the hero, is I think if I could be given a 100-card deck, I think I could build an Enigma deck that could beat basically any hero. But we don't get 100-card decks, we get 80-card decks. So trying to nail down which ones are the right strategies and the right kind of hate cards and the right, little edges here and there to accurately predict this metagame, I think is going to be a big part of what makes Enigma strong and what will make or break a good Enigma deck right now. I think there are so many different angles you can take, and so many of her cards that are very interesting. Ellis has knocked it out of the park in the design of this hero. So many of her cards have this very push and pull on each other. You see a lot of these cards that want to reward you for having a lot of other auras in play. We have cards like Shimmers of Silver and Haze Bending from the previous the Spectra aura era that really want to have a bigger board and have these other auras in play. Cards like we've seen Restless Coalescence be a real all-star in the deck kind of early on, and is another one that really wants to kind of piggyback off of other auras that have counters on them. It has some really neat synergies with Phantom Tidemaw that can kind of build up these counters from other auras, and then Restless Coalescence can kind of do extra things with those orders and expand out the board bigger. But then on the flip side, we have cards like Spectral Manifestation. That is a very powerful card in its own right, but really doesn't want to share the board. Spectral Manifestation is an interesting card that gets a lot weaker when you have these other cards. Rage Spectre is another one, the same kind of idea, where Rage Spectre is an incredibly powerful aura in your toolkit, but is also very selfish on the board. Doesn't really want to share the board with the rest of these auras. And I think there's going to be a lot of interesting choices where deciding kind of how to balance these different lists, and whether you want this strategy of like you want one big aura, or go really wide with a lot of these littler auras. And I think it's going to be super exciting. I think there's a lot of ways that you can approach it and a lot of different tactics. And I think we're going to see a lot of this on Showcase going into national season.
Yeah, 100%. It seems like there's a couple different main schools of thought. There's the instant speed interaction and interplay on both turns that really utilizes the effects like the Restless Coalescence. And then there's the kind of, protect the president as defensive as possible, establish some auras, and just build the wall. So I'm excited to see where players kind of land. And it seems like both strategies are relatively viable.
Yeah, and listen, and I didn't even get into talking about the kind of playing on both players' turns aspect, because even if you want to go down that path, there's a whole nother little like branch that you could do with playing more on your opponent's turn, where you have these cards like Haze Spectre that are not in this current list that really reward you for playing on the opponent's turn, where you can play more things like Brother in Arms, or Oasis Respite, or possibly even the Fable actually gets very interesting. The Mystical Gully gets very interesting if you're playing a list that's more kind of angled in that direction of being able to play on the opponent's turn more.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, like it's just there are so many different directions to take this hero, and even I'm not entirely sure which one is going to be the best. I think there's going to be a lot of these early kind of debates between which angle and which strategy is going to go, because like we mentioned, like some of these strategies kind of directly conflict with each other. If you're playing those Haze Specters and things like that, then like maybe you don't want to be playing some of these more expensive play on my turn kind of cards. And if you're playing some more of the Spectra auras, maybe the cards like Spectral Manifestation that don't really want you to have a sticky board, maybe those get cut. So like it's interesting that there's so many very powerful cards, but all kind of pull you in these different directions.
Yeah. Well, talk to me a little bit about, we're looking at this sample list here that you've thrown together for us. Talk to me about either like couple cards that you think are important, maybe no matter what you want to run, or some tips and tricks for players that might be looking to bring Enigma to their nationals, and or just want to hear, from the Empress's mouth, as it were, from God's ears to your mouth, right? Like just some tips and tricks people might be as they looking for as they get ready to dive into the meta.
Sure. I think the one card that's really been the standout in every deck, and I think the one that always kind of deserves to be talked about the most, Manifestation of Miragai. I think, it's no secret that in any illusionist arsenal, dragons are the most powerful thing you can do. I've been telling people this for years, and, LSS agrees with me clearly. Manifestations of Miragai is a pretty wild card. For being a blue pitch, if you even just playing it out without the cheat is still a 4-power ward, or a 4-power attack that has that ward 2 behind it, that then scales very favorably with anything that can put counters onto that card. If you have say Shimmers of Silver, or even like a Poltrization, the Illusionist Gloves, they can put a +1 counter on it. Anything that can put +1 counters on Manifestation kind of scale triple, because you get the one value from the counter, then you get the extra 1 value because putting the extra counter increases the ward value, which increases its attack power, and then on the defensive side, putting that counter on it also increases its ward value for the defensive purposes. So it's part of why like you'll see like my list has blue Astral Etchings in it, and there are some versions of the list that run red Astral Etchings. Red Astral Etchings and Manifestations of Miragai is a backbreaking combo. But yeah, I think Miragai is one of these cards that has some very cool tricks with it. Not the least of which is Traverse the Universe, which I think is the other card that's very much worth talking about. Traverse the Universe, the new mystic headpiece that fetches a chi is just so good in this deck. I think there's been arguments in some of my testing groups that this might be one of the most powerful headpieces that's ever been printed.
No
It just
doubt.
does so much. Being able to, and like particularly talk about like with the mirror guy, being able to have these turns where you're like, all right, I draw the mirror guy, but I don't have a chi. Well, now I just have that on-demand chi to guarantee this big mirror guy setup. Is an angle that I think you're going to see a lot of people do. Something that I think is slightly less obvious, but I found to be very, very powerful, is instead of always just using the traverse to play the mirror guy to get that buff on it. I think there's a lot to be said for being patient with the mirror guy, waiting, like sticking in arsenal, waiting to find that chi naturally, so that you can play out the big mirror guy, and then using the traverse kind of on the follow-up, because then we get to go into one of my other favorite pieces of equipment in this suite, which is Meridian Pathway. Meridian Pathway, it's super funny because when Pathways first came out, there's a lot of debate of like, well, we don't know how useful this ability is. Some people were like, oh, well, you can pitch a chi and then play 10,000 Year Reunion and get this ward 10 at instant speed, and then you can attack and it's going to be awesome. And then some people were like, no, that costs too much resource. It's too gimmicky. It's never going to see play. This card is terrible. We're just going to play Footsteps. And then we all played with it and we were just like, oh, this is just ward 3. Like, I think everybody was so focused on the first line of text on Meridian Pathway that they just kind of forgot that 3 block on your boots is a lot. Like, not a whole lot of classes get 3 block on their boots, and a lot of them that do have drawbacks on them, like we see with Guardian. So I actually think one of the strategies that you'll probably see a lot with the hero is getting out that mirror guy or possibly some of these other big auras that you want to really protect, and then waiting the turn after to be able to block with the traverse, get the chi, then pitch the chi to either something like Unravel Aggression, which is another fantastic card when comboed with traverse, or even just like pitching into hero ability to make the extra shields to sort of help protect that board. Turn on the Meridian Pathways, get that extra ward. We've been internally kind of joking and calling the Traverse plus Meridian Pathways combo it's the new Carrion Husk. It's kind of 6 value on those 2 pieces of equipment. Between the 2 block from the Helm plus the Spectral Shield plus the extra 3 block on Meridian Pathway, this is just like 6 block on demand. And if you're in a position where you really want to keep that mirror guy safe, or whatever other auras that you're trying to protect, having that just on demand big glut of block is, I think, very, very interesting and very powerful. And I think is a neat trick that you don't initially want to think about. Like I say, it's the obvious play is to use the traverse to play the mirror guy, which is sometimes correct, but I think it's often better to be patient with it and wait for that big defensive setup.
That is very cool. It's not something I have thought about much. I have played a little bit into the hero. My cousin playing a little bit of Enigma, and he used those Meridian Pathway ward quite well in a game against me, and it was something I was like, oh, I didn't really think about what this card does in that way. But I think that is a very good point of advice for people looking to pick up the deck, because like you say, manifestations being such an important kind of powerful center cog in the machine that is Enigma, you got to make sure you can protect the big dragon as best as possible, and the Pathway is going to be a good way to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I think this deck just has so many different little pieces of synergy between all the chunks. I think it's just going to be it's going to be exciting, and I am really looking forward to seeing how everybody has some different takes on this deck and seeing how everyone kind of wants to build it in these different directions. It's going to be a cool hero to really watch as they develop. Like, I'm excited to see like the day one decks compared to what the decks look like the day that she LLs, because I guarantee you they're going to be very, very different decks.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me, Mara. This has been so great. I really appreciate hearing your thoughts. I honestly am going to utilize your tip on the follow-up of the manifestations if I'm ever playing the deck. So thank you for that, and I look forward to seeing you soon at the REALMFEST.
I'm going to hold you to it. I'm expecting an Enigma main at the REALMFEST. Let's see it. Get your cosplay on,
Ooh.
you know? Get you Enigma, get you a little hat. That'd be nice. I bet we can make it happen.